Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Chaitanya. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Govinda Hari, Gopala Hari. Wow. This theme, there's a theme or like a thread that starts to run through everything. Like this pastime of Krishna accepting Jambavati as his second queen, and her being born from more or less uncivilized, uncultured situation. Sometimes her father's described like a bear or something like a gorilla, and they live in the jungle, in a cave. And he's a very, very powerful entity. He killed a lion that stole the Shamantaka jewel. He killed the lion with his bare hands. So he's something like that. So his daughter, living in a cave. But because Jambavan was actually a pure devotee of the Lord, he knew the Lord as Lord Ramachandra from a previous incarnation. And he was here in Krishna Lila as Jambavan. But he was a pure devotee of the Lord. At first he didn't recognize Krishna because it wasn't exactly Ramachandra. Then he realized when he was the strongest entity, Jambavan, and he couldn't defeat Krishna. And he came, oh, I know who this is. Oh, wow. Okay. This is my Lord Ramachandra, appearing now as Krishna. Okay, I surrender. He offered beautiful prayers and offered his daughter. So the other girls that Krishna accepted, they were all from royal families. They were all princesses. They were all sought after by different princes. And there were big ceremonies that took place to see who could win the prize. And they were described as very beautiful, with white shiny teeth and thin waists and high breasts, and all the things that make a young woman very attractive. Beautiful eyes, cultured, refined, wearing beautiful jewelry and lovely clothes and beautiful hair, and probably covered with different kinds of scents, very fragrant. And the princes all wanted, they would fight to get this prize, this jewel. And they were all more or less like that, except for Lakshmana. She was the daughter of, I forget who she was the daughter of, a demigod. And she was living in the water. She came out of the water to, I have to go back over that, how that queen came. But she wanted Krishna. She was thinking she wanted Krishna. And the other queens, the other six, Rukmini wanted Krishna. That's all she could think about was Krishna. Satyabhama, she was the daughter of Satyajit, who was a resident of Dwarka, and he was also a king. He had his kingdom, and he was a pious king, headed for the heavenly planets. And the others also, they were daughters of pious kings. And the pious kings, where do they go? They go to the heavenly planets. So they were all coming from that kind of situation. But Jambavati was very different. She was the daughter of a pure devotee of Krishna. There's no mention or discussion of how she was always thinking of Krishna and she wanted Krishna. It's not mentioned. It's possible, but it's not mentioned. But it was on the strength of her father's devotion for Krishna. And she was given to Krishna. He wanted to offer everything to Krishna. He offered his daughter to Krishna. So my question was, the others are all described. The only thing that says about Jambavati is she was of marriageable age. There's no description of her physical features. Zero, zip, zilch. And if you go on Google, Google knows everything. People have speculated what she looked like. There's paintings and drawings, and she looks like a bear. She's wearing a sari with a crown, and she's holding Krishna's hand. I mean, they speculate in all different ways. It's very funny, actually. But again, this theme of there's a transformation by the touch of the Lord. Whatever material situation someone's in, by the touch of the Lord, there's a transformation. When I try to understand in a devotional way what is going on here with Jambavati, what I get is that by the touch of the Lord, when Jambavan offered her to Krishna, you don't know what she looked like. When Krishna accepted her, by the touch of the Lord, she became the goddess of fortune, suitable for a conjugal relationship with the Lord in Dwarka. It was by his touch. And now I'm seeing the theme of his touch in so many places. Like reading Krishna books, King Nṛga, who made a boo-boo in his Karmakandya practice, little tiny boo-boo, and he ended up like a lizard in a well. And by the touch of Krishna, Krishna reached in and pulled him out. By Krishna's touch, he regained his demigod body. Putana, of all the demons in Vrindavan, she didn't get liberation. She was transformed into Krishna's mother by Krishna accepting her breast milk. She didn't just go to like the Brahmajyoti and hang out with the impersonalists and demons. That Putana body, which was very ugly when it was revealed, she was relieved of that form, and she received the ecstatic form in, what's the one for parenthood? Is that Vatsalya Ras? The one for motherhood or fatherhood of Krishna. She received a body suitable to be Krishna's mother by the touch of Krishna. And by the touch of the Krishna, the Mayavadis and the demons, they get relieved of their material identification, and at least they can identify that they're spirit, even if they don't qualify for the devotional activities yet. By the touch of Krishna, Krishna's touch. So, seeing this theme, I've been glorifying these lilies that are growing here. It's the first year they've bloomed like this. Other years they put out one little flower, two little flowers, no big deal. But this year, it's lily loca out there. I mean, and the fragrance, it's enough to, you could pass out from the fragrance. They're very fragrant. I mean, the fragrance is everywhere. It's like you're intoxicated. It's in the house, it's outside, it's everywhere. These lilies. There's more than 100. There might be 2 or, I don't know, I should count them out there. Actually, there's probably 1,000 of them. They're not all 1,000 blooming, but there's got to be at least 1,000 lilies out there. They grow like weeds, too. I was looking, people that sell the bulbs for this particular type of lily, very expensive. They're like $30. I don't know if I want to go into business. I just, I don't have that kind of energy. I'm giving them away. So one devotee friend who lives near here says, I want some. So I pulled a few bulbs out of the ground, and then I was going to go over to their house with them. But I got tied up with an appointment. The water guys had to come and do something with the water softener, and they were late, and it took them forever to do it. He was a nice guy. He took a book. Perfect questions, perfect answers. He's like a little boy. He was so sweet. He was so proud of himself that he fixed it. I was like, okay. I started to clap. He took a little bow. He was just a sweet guy. And he was very interested in meditation and yoga and India, and he took the book. He was really happy. Trying to read this, so small. Madhu, thanks for stopping by. Blooming Dales. Hare Krishna. So I had pulled them out of the ground. I don't plan on going anywhere for a while because I just want to concentrate on hearing and chanting. And finally it stopped raining. There's so much to do out there, picking up the debris from the storm and everything. I don't want to go anywhere. But I pulled them out of the ground already yesterday. So, and it was late when the guy left from the water softener thing. So I put them in a little basket kind of thing, and I covered them with a damp cloth, just so their leaves were sticking out, so it looked like a baby, and baby's in a basket, like Moses in the bulrushes, Or Karna, when Kunti wanted to send Karna away when he was a baby, because she wasn't married yet, she had a baby. So they were like little babies in a basket covered with a wet cloth with just their leaves sticking out. And quietly I went to my devotee friend's house so they wouldn't know, because it was late. I didn't want to get into, I was tired too. But they were out of the ground, so they needed to get to her house. So I stuck them on her porch. And then I went back and I messaged her and I said, I explained the situation. I said, so there's some babies on your porch in a basket. So she went out. She got the basket and she put the whole thing on her altar. Like a bed. They were in bed sleeping. Put it on her altar. She offered them in that condition. When she makes her offerings, she put the little bulbs there in bed with a blanket. She said they're resting peacefully. So this thread of by the touch of Krishna, I was wondering, who are these entities in these flower bulbs? They're bulbs. Lilies count. It's like a bulb. Who are they? They made it. as an offering in that way by this devotee. Devotees have potency. Some have more than others, but every devotee has potency. I was thinking, who are they? That they made it like that. To be on the altar in that way. Who are they? Because I was thinking, these lilies are so fragrant. What the heck are they doing here in Kali Yuga anyway? And I was thinking, well, maybe they've come here from the heavenly planets to help the devotees in serving in the Sankirtan movement. Because they're definitely not Kali Yuga. I mean, they are so, they've got to be from the heavenly planet stuff. And, there were the twin Arjuna trees that took birth in Krishna's backyard as trees. They were great demigods that stepped on a mine, ended up getting cursed by Nṛga for naughty behavior, taking birth as trees in the backyard, Nanda and Yasoda. And by Krishna's touch, they got their demigod bodies back. They were freed from that. So I'm looking at these lily bulbs. I'm like, who are they? Who are these entities in these flower bulbs? The Krishna's pastimes are going on. It's like, so it's this theme of, by Krishna's touch, transformations taking place. And the devotees are assisting in that. They're bringing people in touch with Krishna. Devotee, like Jambavan brought his daughter in touch with Krishna. And that's what devotees do, is they help others to get in touch with Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. There's just one little bugaboo, is you have to be in touch with Krishna yourself to be able to do it. You have to be a link, a living link, to be able to actually do that. Now, there's a lot of preparation work that can take place, studying and reading, but you actually have to be a living link. You actually have to be in touch with Krishna to really give someone else that opportunity to be in touch with Krishna. It's just because it's a living thing, it's a living God. It's not like over there somewhere. It has to be like right here. It can't just be over there all the time. It's got to be over here at some point. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And different devotees have different empowerments. They have different talents, different abilities, different fields of activity, different relationships with Krishna. But it's alive. Hare Krishna, so then we say awake. Yes, awake. Alive. Alive. Life. Hare Krishna. Life. Spiritual life. Krishna. Krishna Chaitanya. I was going to read Krishna book. This is the summary study of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, coming in line of succession. Vaishnavacharyas, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Gaurkishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Jagannath Das Babaji, and there's more. They're listed in, I think, the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita introduction. Going all the way back to Krishna, ultimately, but more recently going back to most recent incarnation of Krishna. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Guruvakuru. The Lord incarnated in five features, 5 aspects. Hare Krishna. So, the touch of Krishna. This is how King Nṛga gets that. King Nṛga is described as an incredible king. He comes in line of a great dynasty coming from the sun god to Ikshvaku to King Nṛga was the son of Ikshvaku, who was the son of the sun god. So he's way up there as far as powerful, pious kings. And his pious activities, when he gave charity, he gave, like for instance, it's described, when he gave cows, they couldn't be counted, the numbers. They were like the stars in the sky, the number of cows he gave. Whatever he gave in charity, it was so much and so opulent. He took care of the Brahmins very nicely, made sure they had comfortable lives with everything they could possibly want and need. Dug wells. His kingdom, Hare Krishna, had to be something like the heavenly planets on earth because of the way he ruled. And he was headed for the heavenly planets when he was through. Here, his life was through. But he made a mistake. And he's explaining here what happened. One of the cows that he gave in charity to a Brahmin wandered back into his herd. He ended up giving it away again. This set off a very difficult situation for the Brahmins because everything was very strict according to the Karmakanda at the time. And this would cause a huge reaction because you couldn't give something to a Brahmin and take it back. That was a no-no. You're going to get a big reaction for that. Even though it was a mistake, an accident, a mistake, it wasn't intentional, it happened. And the Brahmins also didn't know how to deal with it. Everybody was very upset. So King Nṛga offered to give 100,000 cows in exchange for the one cow. But the Brahmins couldn't accept that because that's a business deal. It was like they were being bought off. Where for them it has nothing to do with business. It's their power of austerity, their power of self-control, their power of mantras. That's where they're at, not, all right, let me give you 100,000 cows for the one cow. It's not like that. They couldn't do it. It wouldn't have solved the problem. So, King Nṛga, when he left his body, Yamaraj explained what happened, and that gave him the choice to accept the reaction for that one thing, or to go to the heavenly. So he accepted the reaction for the one thing, get that out of the way. And that's how he became the lizard in the well. But the well was just near Dwarka, and Krishna's sons, when they were playing as young boys, went and told Krishna, wow, there's this giant lizard in the well. And Krishna So, somehow or other, as a result of his pious activities, King Nṛga had aspired to see the Lord. He continued to say, "My dear Lord, I had a great desire that someday I might be able to see you personally. I think that my tendency to perform ritualistic and charitable activities, combined with this great desire to see you personally, has enabled me to retain the memory of who I was in my former life, even though I became a lizard." So he's not a lizard now. Krishna reached down, took him, pulled him out of the well, and he has got, what kind of body did he get anyway? What kind of body did he get when he came out of the well? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. A beautiful demigod. He became a beautiful demigod. So he was King Nṛga, then he became a lizard, and then a beautiful demigod. When Krishna touched him, he became a beautiful demigod, suitable to inhabit the heavenly planets. So here, he's speaking, he's in his demigod form, and he's explaining, I had wanted to see you personally. Such a person who remembers his past life is called Jatismar. My dear Lord, you are the super soul seated in everyone's heart. There are many great mystic yogis who have eyes to see you through the Vedas and Upanishads. In order to achieve the elevated position of being equal in quality with you, they always meditate on you within their hearts. Although such exalted saintly persons may see you constantly within their hearts, they still cannot see you eye to eye. Therefore, I am very much surprised that I am able to see you personally. I know that I was engaged in so many activities, especially as a king. Although I was in the midst of luxury and opulence and was subjected to so much of the happiness and misery of material existence, I am so fortunate to be seeing you personally. As far as I know, when one becomes liberated from material existence, he can see you in this way. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. When King Nṛga elected to receive the results of his impious activities, he was given the body of a lizard because of the mistake in his pious activities. Thus, he could not be directly converted to a higher status of life like a great demigod. However, along with his pious activities, he thought of Krishna. So he was quickly released from the body of a lizard and given the body of a demigod. By worshipping the Supreme Lord, those who desire material opulences are given the bodies of powerful demigods. Sometimes these demigods can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead eye to eye. But they are still not eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the Vaikuntha planets. However, if the demigods continue to become a devotee of the Lord, the next chance they get, they will enter into the Vaikuntha planets. So they can actually see Krishna eye to eye, but they can't enter the spiritual atmosphere. They can see Krishna, and they're servants. They're doing their service within the material plane. I mean, they can see Krishna, but they can't enter the spiritual platform. But if the demigods continue to become devotees of the Lord, just like anyone else, just like us on the earth planet, if we continue to engage in devotional service, to the Lord, the next chance they get, they will enter into Vaikuntha planets. Krishna. So it's all the same. Up there, here, even down there. Because we've got Bali Maharaj, who was a pure devotee of the Lord, a descendant of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad, ruling in hell. Hare Krishna. Doesn't matter in the material world. It's the material world. The demigods, they have this advantage where they can actually see Krishna. They're very pious, very mode of goodness. But they can't enter in, just the mode of goodness. They have to continue to cultivate a relationship with Krishna in the spirit of devotion, just like anybody else. Somebody posted yesterday a little saying that the wealthy don't own any more than the poor own, because nobody owns anything. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Having attained the body of a demigod, King Nṛga continued to remember everything and said, "My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Lord and are worshipped by all the demigods. You are not one of the living entities, but you are the Supreme Person, Purushottama. You are the source of all happiness to all living entities. Therefore you're known as Govinda. You are the Lord of those living entities who have accepted a material body and those who have not yet accepted a material body." Parentheses here. Among the living entities who have not accepted a material body are those who are hovering in the material world as evil spirits or living in the ghostly atmosphere. I don't see. Oh, okay. Looking for the end here. However, those who live in the spiritual kingdom, the Vaikuntha lokas, have bodies, but that they are not made of material elements. That's interesting about the ghosts and the spirits. They don't have a gross body. They have a subtle body. Their bodies are subtle. They exist on the plane of mind, intelligence, and false ego. And that's part of the reason why they tend to disturb people who do have a gross material body, because they have gross material desires and no way to activate them or engage them, because it's like somebody who's lost an arm. They might want to use his right arm. His mind says right arm, but there's no right arm. Sometimes they even have pain, like the arm hurts, but there's no arm there because it's in the mind. Kind of like that. So when you have not accepted a material body, well, they do have a material body. It's a ghostly body. They just don't have a gross body. And they're hovering in this subtle plane. So among those who are hovering on this subtle plane, but the spiritual world is not like that. They don't have even a gross or subtle body. It's a whole different atmosphere. It's not gross or subtle. It's beyond the mind, intelligence, and the false ego, and the earth, the water, the fire, the air, and like that. It's beyond all of that. It's a whole other energy, type of energy. It's not material, whether gross or subtle. So Prabhupada's making that distinction. You are living in everyone's heart. You're the shelter of all living entities. Narayan. Being situated in the heart of all living entities, You are the supreme director of everyone's sensual activities. Therefore, you're called Rishikesh. My dear Supreme Lord Krishna, because you have given me this body of a demigod, I will have to go to some heavenly planet, so I am taking this opportunity to beg for your mercy, that I may have the benediction of never forgetting your lotus feet, no matter to which form of life or planet I may be transferred. You are all-pervading, present everywhere, as cause and effect. You are the cause of all causes, and your potency and power are unlimited. So this King Nṛga is offering a very significant prayer here. It's similar to the prayers Shikshastika. Somehow or other I've fallen into this ocean of materials, of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean. Place me as an atom of your lotus feet. That's one of them. But the other one is what about I am your eternal servitor. Treat me roughly by your embrace. Make me brokenhearted, not being present before me. You're always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. So, it's very, very close here. King Nṛga's mood is that, because he says Lord Chaitanya says birth after birth, life after life, just don't let me forget you, let me be engaged in your service, wherever I am. So, similarly here, King Nṛga, he's saying, I realize now I have this, he wanted a demigod body, now he's got it. And now he realizes, I got this demigod body, I'm going to have to go to the heavenly planets. And he's standing there in front, right with Krishna, talking to Krishna. So he says, I'm taking this opportunity to beg for your mercy, that I may have the benediction of never forgetting your lotus feet, no matter to which form of life or planet I may be transferred. You are the cause of all causes, your potency and power unlimited, you're the absolute truth, the supreme personality, Godhead, and the supreme Brahman. Krishna, I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. My dear Lord, your body is full of transcendental bliss and knowledge, and you are eternal. You are the master of all mystic powers, therefore you're known as Yogeshwara. Kindly accept me as insignificant dust at your lotus feet. Krishna, before entering the heavenly planets, King Nṛga circumambulated the Lord. He touched his helmet to the lotus feet of the Lord and bowed before him. Seeing the airplane from the heavenly planets present before him, he was given permission by the Lord to board it. After the departure of King Nṛga, Lord Krishna expressed his appreciation for the king's devotion to the Brahmanas, as well as his charitable disposition and his performance of Vedic rituals. Therefore, it is recommended that if one cannot directly become a devotee of the Lord, one should follow the Vedic principles of life. This will enable him one day to see the Lord by being promoted either directly to the spiritual kingdom or indirectly to the heavenly kingdom, where he has hope of being transferred to the spiritual planets. Yeah, that verse in the Gita, if you can't do this, then do that. If you can't do that, then do this. And ultimately, you surrender to Krishna. But if you can't do that, then I have to read that chapter again to get the exact progression, but then cultivate knowledge. If you can't do that, then give in charity. If you can't do that, offer the fruits of your activities, like that. You got to be able to do something. You can't do the topmost thing right away. At this time, Lord Krishna was present among his relatives who were members of the Kshatriya class to teach them through the exemplary character of King Nṛga. He said, even though a Kshatriya king may be as powerful as fire, it is not possible for him to usurp the property of a Brahmana and utilize it for his own purpose. If this is so, how can ordinary kings, who falsely think of themselves as the most powerful beings within the material world, usurp a Brahmana's property? So the Brahmana is more powerful than the Kshatriya. There are a lot of instances, there are several instances of how that is. You know, Bhakti Siddhanta describes one incident from one of the Puranas somewhere about a king who realized that the Brahmins were more powerful than Kshatriyas, so I forgot how he did it, but he became a Brahmana instead, because he wanted to be powerful. I do not think that taking poison is as dangerous as taking a Brahmana's property. For ordinary poison, there is treatment. One can be relieved from its effects. But if one drinks the poison of taking a Brahmana's property, there's no remedy for the mistake. The perfect example was King Nṛga. He was very powerful and very pious, but due to the small mistake of unknowingly usurping a Brahmana's cow, he was condemned to the abominable life of a lizard. Ordinary poison affects only those who drink it, and ordinary fire can be extinguished simply by pouring water on it. But the Arani fire, ignited by the spiritual potency of a Brahmana, can burn to ashes the whole family of a person who provokes such a Brahmana. Parentheses. Formerly, the Brahmanas used to ignite the fire of sacrifice not with matches or other external fire, cigarette lighters. The altars have cigarette lighters on them to light the incense and the candles. Cigarette lighters. Formerly, the Brahmins used to ignite the fire of sacrifice not with matches or any other external fire, but with their powerful mantras called Arani. In parentheses. If someone even touches a Brahmin's property, I know there's that theme of touch. If someone even touches a Brahmina's property, he's ruined for 3 generations. However, if a Brahmina's property is forcibly taken away, the taker's family for 10 generations before him, 10 generations after him, will become subject to ruination. On the other hand, if someone becomes a Vaishnava, a devotee of the Lord, 10 generations of his family before his birth and 10 generations after will become liberated. Bhaktisiddhanta, he has a very long essay, it's really wonderful, Brahmana and Vaishnava, where he explores what a Brahmana is and what a Vaishnava is, and how there's some differences there. So here, Prabhupada kind of does it. I mean, he's got that little sense of humor in there. It's like, Bhaktisiddhanta did this kind of thing in his essay. It's like a little bit of a satire, satirical. I don't say this is satire because it's true, but presented kind of with a little irony. And I kind of see this here, like echoes of Bhaktisiddhanta's irony. I'm sure Prabhupada read Bhaktisiddhanta's Vaishnava Brahmana. So Prabhupada says, on the other hand, if someone becomes a Vaishnava or devotee of the Lord, 10 generations of his family before birth and 10 generations after will become liberated. Lord Krishna continued, if some foolish king who was puffed up by his wealth, prestige, and power wants to usurp a Brahmana's property, it should be understood that such a king is clearing his path to hell. He does not know how much he has to suffer for such unwise action. Ooh. Krishna. Wow, I never thought of it like that. I was distributing books, and I was keeping one book back. I didn't have any money, of course not. I'm living in the ashram. But I wanted to read the books. There wasn't a full set in the temple. And I wanted to study the books I was distributing. Hello? So I was distributing the books, and I was keeping one back. I had a little bookshelf, and I was reading them. And some disciples of the new guru, this was when everything was so confused right after Prabhupada's departure, wanted to have books for when their guru came. And I was the only one that had books. And I was reading them. That's why. Nobody else had books because they weren't reading them, obviously, if they didn't have them. So they barged in to my little area there where I kept my books and I was reading this, and they took them. And said, "You don't own these. You didn't buy them." And I was like, wow, Krishna. So I don't know. I don't know if that means, you're cursed for 10 generations. I don't know. But it was pretty dramatic. It was a pretty dramatic experience. Yeah, wow. I kind of left the institution after that because I realized I had no protection. Because, so anyway, he says a king. All right, I wasn't a king, so they don't have to worry. Well, they weren't kings. Okay. And I probably wasn't much of a Brahmin either. Okay, so we're okay. If someone takes away the property of a very liberal Brahmin who is encumbered by a large dependent family, then such a usurper is put into the hell known as Kumbhipaka. Not only is he put into this hell, but his family members also have to accept such a miserable condition of life. A person who takes away property which has either been awarded to a Brahmana or given away by him is condemned to live for at least 60,000 years as a miserable insect in stool. Therefore I instruct you, all my boys and relatives present here, do not, even by mistake, take the possession of a Brahmana and thereby pollute your whole family. Yeah, the Kshatriyas are meant to protect the Brahmanas. If someone even wishes to possess such property, let alone attempts to take it away by force, the duration of his life will be reduced. He will be defeated by his enemies, and after being bereft of his royal positions, when he gives up his body, he will become a serpent. It's starting to sound like the Old Testament here. Hare Krishna, the wrathful God. A serpent gives trouble to all living entities. My dear boys and relatives, and therefore I advise you that even if a Brahmana becomes angry with you and calls you by ill names or cuts you, still you should not retaliate. On the contrary, you should smile, tolerate him, and offer your respects to the Brahmana. Okay, that was how who was it? Someone took shelter of, was it Dronacharya or Kripacharya? And I believe his guru was resting in his lap. He had, I don't know, he massaged him or whatever, and an insect came and bored into the leg of this devotee, this person, and he tolerated it because he didn't want to disturb his guru. When his guru saw that, he said, "You're not a Brahmin. I can't instruct you. You're not a Brahmin. A Brahmin wouldn't tolerate, only a Kshatriya can tolerate that kind of pain. You're a Kshatriya, you're not a Brahmin." And I think he refused to instruct him. Another thing I have to read again to get it right. But the idea is that, like Krishna's explaining here, is that advise you that even if a Brahmin becomes angry with you, calls you by ill name, or cuts you, still you should not retaliate. On the contrary, you should smile, tolerate him, offer your respects to the Brahmana. You know very well that even I myself offer my obeisances to the Brahmanas with great respect, 3 times daily. You should therefore follow my instructions and example. I shall not forgive anyone who does not follow them, and I shall punish him. You should learn from the example of King Nṛga that even if someone unknowingly usurps the property of a Brahmana, he's put into a miserable condition of life. Just a little footnote here, and Prabhupada kind of hinted at it when he said that if someone becomes a Vaishnava, then 10 generations before his birth and 10 after he's become liberated. So, in Kali Yuga there are no Brahmanas. Everyone's Sudra. So someone may be taking up the service of acting like a Brahmana, but these kinds of Brahmanas, they're not here anymore. They're not here anymore. And the demigods used to visit the planet all the time. And they don't visit anymore either. This is Kali Yuga. So, but we can understand the culture, how it worked. The Brahmanas were very, very powerful. They were born from the head of Lord Brahma at the beginning of the creation. And a Brahmana was a Brahmana by birth. For a long time it was like that, because the Brahmanas were born from Lord Brahma, from his head. And so those that were born from those Brahmanas were also Brahmanas. But as the time wore on and so many different activities were becoming confused, then it was no longer by birth. So anyone who claims that now, no, that's not. A Brahmana is by quality and by his actions, you can tell that way. But this kind of Brahmana, they're not here now. They can light a fire with mantras. Where are they? Who's lighting fires with mantras? Anybody? Hello? Yeah. Thus, Lord Krishna, who was always engaged in purifying the conditioned living entities, gave instruction not only to his family members and the inhabitants of Dwarka, but to all the members of human society. After this, the Lord entered his palace. Thus ended the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 63rd chapter of Krishna, the story of King Nṛga. All right, moving right along here. The next chapter, next time, is Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna.